everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive.
Glad to be back.
All right, so today we're going to be looking at something that I think a lot of us have probably felt at some point or another, this idea that, you can be super connected online on all these different platforms, but still feel like you're missing something.
Totally.
Like you're not really truly connected.
Yeah, that's it.
Like you're lonely.
Yeah.
Even though, you're constantly talking to people online.
It's a real paradox of modern life.
It really is.
Yeah. Like we're more connected than ever technologically, but so many people feel so isolated.
So to dive into this, we've been checking out this really interesting podcast called The Loneliness Epidemic, Why America's More Connected Than Ever and Miserable.
Oh, yeah. Listen to that one.
Yeah. It's hosted by these two guys, Jamie and Alex.
They're pretty funny.
They are really funny.
Yeah.
And they have some really insightful points about this whole thing.
Cool.
So what we're going to try to do today is kind of unpack this, this whole loneliness thing.
Yeah.
Figure out why it's happening.
Okay.
And maybe even brainstorm some ways we can start to feel more connected.
Yeah, I'm into that.
All right. So, right off the bat in the podcast, they hit you with this statistic.
Oh, yeah.
50% of Americans report feeling lonely.
50%.
Wow.
Half.
That's a huge number.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it really makes you think,
yeah,
how many people are walking around feeling that way?
Right. And you think about all the people you interact with every day, at the grocery store or, walking down the street. There's a good chance that a lot of them are feeling lonely.
Yeah. And I think what's even more striking is that this is happening at the same time that we're supposedly more connected than ever.
Exactly. Like we have all these tools to stay in touch.
Yeah, we've got social media and texting and video calls.
Right.
It's so easy to talk to anyone anywhere in the world. But like Jamie and Alex pointed out in the podcast, just because you have a ton of online connections doesn't mean you have real meaningful relationships.
No, not at all.
Like they made this analogy about eating a salad made of emojis.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
It's like it looks like you're getting something substantial.
Right.
But it's not really nourishing you.
Totally. Yeah, you can have thousands of followers on Instagram, but if you don't have those deep connections in real life, it's not going to fulfill you.
And it's like, when you think about it, a lot of online interactions are pretty superficial.
Yeah, they can be.
Like just scrolling through feeds, liking things. It's not really the same as sitting down with someone, having a real conversation.
And there's that whole thing about ghosting.
Oh, yeah, they've talked about that.
It's so easy to just disappear online.
Yeah, like you can just block someone or unfriend them.
Right.
And there's no real accountability.
Yeah, it's like you're not really investing in the relationship.
Yeah.
You're just kind of there until you're not.
And one of the things that really struck me from the podcast was that they said even just 2 hours a week of meaningful connection can have a really positive impact on your mental health.
2 hours. That's all it takes.
That's it. Just 2 hours.
Really makes you think about how you're spending your time.
It really does. Are you actually spending time with people who matter to you?
Right.
Or are you just kind of mindlessly scrolling through social media?
Yeah. And I think it's important to clarify what they meant by meaningful connection.
Yeah.
It's not just about being in the same room as someone.
Right.
It's about really engaging with them, listening to them.
Yeah.
Sharing your thoughts and feelings.
Being present.
Exactly.
And one thing I thought was funny was when they talked about a friendship version of Tinder.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Imagine swiping right for actual human interaction.
Swipe right for real conversation.
Yeah. I know it's kind of a silly idea.
It is.
But it also shows how much we're craving those connections.
Totally. We're all looking for ways to connect.
Yeah. So I guess the question is why are we so lonely?
Right. What's going on here?
What are some of the reasons?
Yeah.
And Jamie and Alex actually had a bunch of interesting thoughts on this.
Oh, yeah, they did?
So one of the first things they talked about was urbanization.
Okay.
We're living in these increasingly dense cities, surrounded by tons of people.
Yeah.
But it can be really hard to actually connect with them.
Yeah. You might see your neighbors in the hallway.
Yeah.
But you don't really know them.
They had this anecdote about knowing your barista's life story better than your neighbors.
Oh, yeah, that's so true.
You might see your baristas every day.
Right.
And chat with them while they make your coffee.
Yeah.
But you don't even know your neighbor's name.
And it's not that we don't want to connect with our neighbors.
Right.
It's just that modern life is so busy and fast-paced.
Yeah.
And we're often so focused on our own little bubbles
that
we don't really take the time to reach out.
And then there's the whole thing about remote work.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Which, like, obviously has its perks.
Totally.
But it also means that we're missing out on those, like, casual workplace interaction.
Right, like those water cooler chats.
Yeah.
Or those impromptu coffee breaks.
Yeah.
Just bumping into people in the hallway.
Those little moments can actually add up.
They do.
And create a sense of community.
Yeah, you feel like you're part of something.
Right.
Even if it's just your workplace.
And then, of course, we can't talk about loneliness without talking about social media.
Of course not.
Like, it's this double-edged sword.
Totally.
On the one hand, it can connect us with people.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it can also make us feel more isolated.
It can, for sure.
Jamie and Alex talked about this thing called the comparison trap.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Where you're constantly comparing yourself to other people's highlight reels.
Right, like everyone's posting their best selves.
Yeah, their perfect vacations. Their amazing meals.
Their perfect bodies.
Right.
It's easy to start feeling like you're not good enough.
Exactly. And it creates this fear of missing out.
Yeah, that FOMO.
Like, everyone else is having so much fun.
Right, and you're just sitting at home feeling like you're missing out.
And then another thing they brought up was the decline of third places.
Third places?
Yeah, these are like those casual community spaces, like parks, churches, diners, places where people used to just naturally gather and connect.
Right, like without having to plan anything.
Yeah, it's just like a place where you can run into people and chat and hang out.
Yeah.
But now it feels like so many experiences are becoming monetized.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like you have to pay to go to a concert or sporting event.
Right.
Or even just to go to a nice park.
Yeah, and those free spaces where you could just be around other people.
Yeah.
They're becoming harder to find.
And it's like even just hanging out with friends, it feels like everything has to be scheduled now.
Yeah, like you can't just drop by someone's house anymore.
Right, you have to send a text first.
And
make sure it's okay.
Right.
There's less spontaneity.
Yeah, it's more formal.
And that can make it harder to just connect.
It can.
But Jamie and Alex did say something helpful too.
Oh, good.
They reminded us that humans are actually wired for connection.
Yeah, we're social creatures.
Like, it's in our DNA.
Right.
So it's not like we're doomed to be lonely.
No, not at all.
It's just that we might need to put in a little extra effort these days.
Yeah, we might need to work at it a bit.
Okay, so what can we actually do about this?
Right. That's the big question.
Like, how can we start to feel more connected?
Yeah.
Well, Jamie and Alex had some really practical advice in the podcast.
Okay, I'm all ears.
One of their big suggestions was to get uncomfortable.
Get uncomfortable.
Yeah, like push yourself to initiate deeper forms of communication.
Okay.
Instead of just sending a quick text, call someone, or invite them to lunch.
Yeah.
Even if it feels awkward at first.
Like, put yourself out there.
Exactly. Like, embrace the cringe.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
They talked about how sometimes we get so worried about things being awkward that we avoid doing them altogether. But the reality is, most of the time, it's not that big of a deal.
No.
And even if it is a little awkward, at least you tried.
Exactly. And you might even end up making a new friend.
Yeah.
So it's worth the risk.
And they also talked about the importance of designing environments that foster connection.
Okay.
Like they mentioned these happy hour parks in Helsinki.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those.
Where people can just gather and socialize.
Like they're intentionally creating spaces for people to connect.
Exactly.
That's a great idea.
And they also talked about apps like Meetup and Bumble, BF.
Oh, yeah. Those can be really helpful.
Yeah, like if you're new to a city or you're just looking for people with similar interests.
Right.
Those apps can be a good way to meet people.
Totally.
And one thing that really resonated with me was when Jamie talked about his Dungeons and Dragons group.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like this group of friends that he meets with regularly to play D&D.
Right.
And it's become this really important source of connection for him.
Yeah, it's like a built-in community.
Right.
You have this shared activity that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And you get to connect with people who share that passion.
And they also talked about the importance of vulnerability.
Okay.
Like admitting that you're feeling lonely.
Yeah.
It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength.
It is.
Because it means you're willing to be open and honest about how you're feeling.
Right. And it can open the door to getting support.
Exactly. Like you might be surprised by how many people are feeling the same way. And then one of the last things they talked about was the power of small gestures.
Okay.
Like just doing little things to brighten someone's day.
Right.
Like giving a compliment to a stranger or reaching out to an old friend.
Yeah.
Like those little acts of kindness can actually make a big difference.
They can. They really can.
They use this analogy of pebbles in a pond.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Like each small gesture is like a pebble.
Right.
And it creates these ripples of connection that spread outwards.
Yeah, it's like you're putting good vibes out into the world.
Right.
And those good vibes come back to you.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
yeah,
I think it's really important to remember that feeling lonely is not your fault.
Yeah, it's not like a personal failing.
Right. It's something that a lot of people are going through.
It's a societal issue.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel lonely sometimes.
Yeah, you're not alone in feeling alone.
Right.
And if you are feeling lonely,
yeah,
Jamie and Alex had this really simple but powerful advice.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
Talk to someone.
Talk to someone.
Reach out to a friend.
Yeah.
A family member.
Uh-huh.
A therapist.
91.
Yeah. Anyone who you feel comfortable talking to.
Right.
Just start a conversation.
And you know what?
Right.
It doesn't have to be a big, deep conversation.
Right.
Just start small.
Yeah.
Ask someone how their day is going.
Yeah.
Or tell them something interesting that happened to you. Just those little interactions.
Yeah.
They can make a difference.
So I guess the takeaway here is that even in this hyper-connected world, we still need to make a conscious effort to connect with each other.
We do. It's not going to happen automatically.
Yeah, like we have to be intentional about it.
Right.
So what's one small step that you can take today?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
To cultivate a little more connection in your life.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to call my sister tonight.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we haven't talked in a while.
I think I'm going to try to be more present when I'm with people.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like put my phone away and actually listen to what they're saying.
Yeah, be in the moment.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right. That's it for this deep dive.
That was a good one.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you next time.
See ya.